Welcome to today's session, Building and Implementing a Governance Layer Within an Enterprise AI System, presented by Nidhi Mahajan. As AI transitions from a helpful assistant to an autonomous agent, the need for structured checks and balances has never been more urgent. In this session, Nidhi Mahajan will address the current governance gap and explain why traditional IT frameworks often fall short when faced with the real-time evolution of AI models. The agenda covers mapping AI governance onto existing enterprise structures, defining clear roles and accountability, and building a practical roadmap for organizational execution. By the end of this presentation, viewers will understand how to foster trust and regulatory compliance while maintaining the speed of AI deployment. Let's start.
Today's topic is building governance with AI. And let me just kind of take a little pause over here to understand and share what governance actually is. So, people have many different terminologies about governance, but the simplest terminology about governance is to organize, to put a structure, where we can make sure the monitoring and the trust of our consumer monitoring and the trust of our consumer, as well as the entire ecosystem. So, having said that, AI is like, everywhere right now. So I hope everyone understands how the AI has evolved. First, we started with Copilot back in 2022. So Copilot was nothing but like kind of think like an assistant. We all use Copilot in our apps day in, day out, for our meeting notes, for our, we give any kind of, proposal to the Copilot and say, okay, Copilot, go through this proposal and just tell me, highlight bullets, and the co-pilot will tell you the ins and the outs and all the nitty-gritties of that proposal. But the co-pilot had some limitations, and then we evolved to a thing called RAG. What RAG does is it kind of stores and memorize all the data that company has provided, or suppose I'm the user, it kind of stores the data and the history of my entire chat with the AI, with the co-pilot. And where RAG comes in, RAG is a little bit more smarter than Copilot. RAG kind of search the entire company history and will tell me, okay, whether whatever, suppose let me give you an example, a real-time example. Suppose I'll tell Copilot, draft an email and say, and draft an apologetic email and say, to a client or to a buyer, an Amazon buyer, that we are sorry that you did not receive the item and we are ready to refund you 50%. Now Copilot will just draft this email for you, but will not look at Amazon company policy, whether they allow 50% refund or not. That's where the RAG comes in. RAG will search the entire company policy and see, okay, are we allowed? Is it our policy to return 50%, to give 50% refund to the buyer? And RAG will say, okay, you are not allowed to give 50%. This is not as per our policy. You can only refund 10% if that window has been passed. That's what RAG does. It just kind of pulls the data, look at the data, and then give you a very thoughtful answer where it aligns with the company policies in this particular example. And then comes the entire AI evolved into agents. Agent is something which uses RAG. It does not replace RAG. So RAG, all these layers do not replace each other. RAG sits on Copilot, and then agent sits on RAG. So agent is the most smarter, who kind of says, okay, fine, RAG has told me that it's not but the company policy to give 50% refund. It is only the company policy to give 10% refund. So I'll draft the email, I will send out the email, and I'll process the refund. So it kind of does end to end everything. So in the first two models, Copilot and RAG, still there's a human intervention that we have still to send out the email, we have still to process the refund, but RAG does it end to end. But here comes the governance. So where we need to put a little bit of a check and balances. Governance is nothing but a check and balances, a structure, a monitor, and everything. We put as checks and balances that, okay, if the refund amount is $100, then only agent can auto process the refund. But if the amount is more than $100, if we stop agent over there, it becomes more of a manual than an automated system, where actually a human will process the refund. That is where the governance comes in. And that is what we are going to look at it, because governance is like, all the industries have a very strong governance structure. Like all the regulatory industries have a very strong governance structure. But when it comes to AI, still we are lacking over there to put a governance in order to monitor and trust of our consumers. So let's go to our next slide. All right. So what you guys are gonna the takeaway from this would be understand the governance gap. Look where the governance is. First, we'll understand the governance gap. Why, and then why the governance framework what are the governance framework that works well for IT, for data, for compliance, and are not sufficient for AI in the current forum. So we have the governance, but they are not at a stage where they can be integrated with the AI, where they can be integrated with these kind of three models, which I just explained. Second, we will learn map the AI governance into the existing structure. So we do not want to reinvent the wheel over here. We want to use the existing governance structure and learn how to map the AI governance into your existing governance structure. We are not asking to create kind of a new department or a new community. We are just asking to extend what we have and make it more smarter, so that we can do a more uh, intelligent checks and balances. Third, define roles and accountability. So roles and accountability. So who will own the AI governance structure? Right now, different companies have a different governance forums, who kind of own and um, kind of sit on the top of the governance structure and make the decisions. But who will own this AI governance structure, which is more of a intuitive governance, which will do the governance based on the rules and the regulations and the checks and the balances that we're going to put. So these will be kind of, that's kind of that ownership is still something where there's a little bit of an ambiguous situation over there. And then the fourth is build a practical roadmap. So what are the concrete steps to take back to the organization and start executing? So what are the kind of, the checklists that we need to know how to implement, how to integrate this AI governance into your existing governance? All right, next slide. Okay, so the agenda for today is we'll start with the AI governance, which is imperative, why it matters right now, and then we will look at what already is existing, the governance, the existing governance structure, the existing governance landscape, and then we will kind of section this governance structure into three cores: AI governance framework, including pillars, roles, how to integrate with the existing structure. And in the fourth section, we'll put it into practice. We'll see in a real world, in a real scenario, how do we structure this governance, like real patterns, common pitfalls, how to get started. And finally, we'll close this with a Q&A and your takeaway questions. So that is the agenda for today. And I will take the questions at the end, but feel free to kind of put it in the chat if you have any questions, so that Gauri can kind of pass it on to me. Okay, so why AI governance is imperative. So here is some kind of so let me kind of start with some context on why AI governance is no longer an option. Like, look at these numbers. Around 70% of the enterprise have deployed AI in some form or the other, in maybe in a co-pilot, maybe as a kind of RAG, or maybe a full-fledged AI a model with an agent and agentic AI. Or the others have kind of just yeah. So the global AI market is projecting that $4.2 trillion will be invested into AI by 2030, and over 60 countries will be actively participating into AI regulations. Now, why does this demand of governance right now? Like, why do we need governance right now? So the first, the regulatory pressure. So there are regulatory norms and the standards that has been set up in many different countries, like EU AI Act is now effective. NIST has released the AI risk management, because they all know that there has to be some kind of a trust and a monitoring on this AI. Okay, so we were talking that the EU AI Act, which kind of EU has made it mandate that there has to be a governance, and then NIST tells that how to operationalize AI risk management. It's like they have published a playbook, and then ISO gives us the management system to sustain it. So together they form a regulatory landscape your governance framework needs to address. Second is AI failures are public. So if there's an AI failure, it's public and it's very expensive, because right now we are used to, like, once we kind of test, and in a normal, whenever we want to ship any product, we test it before, and then when we are sure, we ship the product and it goes live, and we know that the product is error proof, or there might not be any surprises once the product goes into the production. But AI does not play that. AI sits on data, and the data is kind of, we're adding the data every single day. So AI is evolving and using the data in real time. So the AI failures are really public and very expensive. So when the AI system produces a biased decision, or a chatbot hallucinates critical information, or an system makes, so it's these are the costly errors. These incidents makes the news, like, and the damage is, it damages the trust, it damages the revenue, it damages the reputation. So that's why that's the reason all these regulatory governance are becoming important. Third is a broad level accountability. So the all these investors are now asking very direct questions to the organization boards. Who is responsible for your AI? Is there any governance that sits on the AI? How are we monitoring this governance so that there are no failures real time? They don't want to hear that it is managed somewhere in some engineering team. They want to see AI oversight at the governance level, and very clear ownership and accountability. And then the fourth is the trust as a competitive advantage. Trust is as a I would say more of a, competitive advantage. If your organization can show customers and the partners and the regulators that the governance that we govern AI responsibly, that builds confidence. People want to do the business with the companies they trust. And right now, trust in the AI is kind of not at that level, the way we have trust in uh, industries which are a kind of banking industry. Like we put money into banks with a total complete trust. So the organizations that get governance right early will have a real edge over these organizations and the industries where the AI is booming, but we cannot show the trust right now. So that is the urgency of the governance. It's like a wake up call. AI is everywhere now, but it is too impactful and it is too risky, and it's visible real time. So that's where the governance sits, and that's it makes AI governance becomes a challenge, but it's a challenge that we need to overcome, and we need to implement governance. Okay, why existing governance falls short? So, as I said in the starting, we do have a governance model everywhere, but that governance model is not going to work for AI. So the traditional framework were built for different world where they work the work that IT does, like data management and the compliance. But the AI has a characteristics that were never designed to handle let's that were never designed to handle fail I would say real time failures, because it is using the data a new data every single day. So traditionally, systems were versioned, as you all know. You build, you test, you deploy, and they stay the same unless you do some kind of an enhancement. But the AI model, as I've been saying, evolve after the development. They learn from new data. A model that was fair last month might not work the similar way this month because there's a big chunk of new data coming every single day, being added and given to AI to give us the output. Your change advisory board, or your what do we call it as a CAB, reviews and approves changes before go live in historical world. But now with the AI, the change happens after go live continuously. No one files a change request. Your CAB has no mechanism to catch it. Um, MIT in 2024 found that 91% of the ML models degrade within the first year due to the data drift. And that is the governance blind spot. Um, we can call it as a black box decision making or an unexplainable AI decisions. But the standard audit assume that every decision traces back to a rule or a policy that the company puts in. But AI decision, especially in the deep learning, are hard to explain. For example, why did the model deny that loan? Why did a flag why did it not flag that transaction? I'm just giving you some examples here. Here it explains the challenge. Um, that is not just a technical problem, it's a regulatory one. That if someone applies for a loan and AI just kind of passes the loan without validating whether the person was defaulted in past. So that's where the AI failed. It did not flag, it did not recheck, it did not go back and kind of recheck its own decision. That's kind of a failure over there. I'll give you one real example. In 2023, a New York lawyer used ChatGPT to prepare a court filing. AI hallucinated six fake case citations that never existed. The lawyer submitted them to the court without checking, without any manual checking. The judge sanctioned him. The AI could not explain why it invented those cases. That is the opaque decision making with real consequences. That is what uh, opaque AI decision making looks like when it meets the real world accountability. Then comes the data dependency. Data governance covers quality, lineage, and access controls, but it does not tell you whether your training data is representative or whether it contains some bias. So a well-known example, Amazon built a hiring tool trained on 10 years of resumes. The model learned to penalize resume containing the word woman because historically most hires were male. So the data was technically high quality, it had good lineage, and passed every data governance check, but the model it trained was fundamentally biased. So Gartner predict that by 2026, organizations that do not manage AI bias will see 80% of their AI initiative fail to deliver outcome. So the AI governance must extend beyond data governance to cover what the model actually learns from the data. Then comes the cross-functional impact. AI does not sit neatly in one department. A single AI deployment can involve engineering, legal, compliance, HR, operations all at the same time. Take a consumer onboarding AI, for example. It touches data privacy, which is legal. It touches customer experience, which is operations. It touches model accuracy, which is technology. And it touches fair lending, which is compliance. Now ask yourself, if your risk committee only looks at financial risks, your IT governance board only looks at technology risk, who's looking at the full end-to-end picture? No one. That's a gap over there. McKinsey said, McKinsey did a study in 2025. They found that the organizations from cross-functional AI governance are 1.6 times more likely to hit their AI objectives compared to those where governance sit in silos. That's a big difference. Then comes the speed of deployment. AI model can go from deployment to production in days, especially with modern ML ops pipelines and cloud-based deployments. But governance reviews, communities, approvals, and documentation, etc., will take weeks and months. So this mismatch, so there's this, it might slow down. So this mismatch creates a window where the models go live before the governance even catches them. In 2025, Stanford report found that only 14% of the organizations have governance processes that keeps up with their AI deployment timelines, meaning that they are so fast. In regulatory industries, that is not just a risk management problem, that is a regulatory pitfall. So eventually, that is why we need AI specific governance layered on top of what exists so that it is as fast as the deployment of governance and deployment of AI. Not replacing the current governance, but extending it. Um, okay. Enterprise governance landscape. Before we talk about AI governance, let's look at what most organizations already have in place. The good news is that you are not starting from scratch. You're not reinventing the wheel. Most of you already have a governance structure that can serve as a foundation. So enterprise risk management, what we call as the ERM, most large organizations already run formal risk programs. You identify risk, you understand how severe they are and how likely they are to impact. Then you put migrations in place, and then finally you report to the leadership. That is the one of the most mature governance function in any enterprise. So the good thing is this framework is directly extendable for AI risk. You don't need to invent a new process. You need to just add new risk categories. Next, sorry. Next is compliance and regulatory. Your compliance team already managed regulatory adherence, policy documents, and audit. They already know how to handle new regulations. Every time a new regulations comes in, whether it's a data privacy, financial reporting, or operational resilience, your compliance teams figure it out all. AI regulations are no different. Regulations like EU AI Act, what I talked before, ISO, can flow into these same compliance workflow. The process is the same, the content is new. You need to provide new policies, new mandates. And then comes a IT governance. So technology review boards, architect standards, change management processes, security governance, these are part of IT governance forums. And these already control how technology gets built, how deployment happens in your organizations. So here's the thing. AI is technology. It should flow through these same channels. If you have an architect review board that approves new system, that same board should review AI deployment. Then comes the data governance, data quality, leverage tracking, privacy management, and access controls. They are part of data governance. That is critical foundation because AI depends completely on data. Without good data, you cannot have a good AI model, which can give you a predictable outcomes. But as we discussed in the previous slide, data governance alone is not enough. It covers the data, but it does not cover what the model learns from the data. That is important difference. Then comes ethics and cultures. Many organizations already have ethics committees, code of conduct, mechanisms for raising concerns. That entire structure is in place. These are these are expandable to cover AI specific ethical questions. What are those questions? Questions like, is the AI system fair? Are you comfortable with the level of automation? What happens when the AI get it wrong, etc., etc.? You already have the forum, you just need to bring AI topics into it. Next is the board and executive oversight. Your board already set risk appetite and strategic directions. They need to extend their oversight to include AI. Where we where we where are we investing in AI? What risks are we taking? Who is accountable? So if your board is not asking these questions today, they will be asking sooner than later. Regulatory will make sure that they ask. So the key message here is simple. You're not starting from zero. You're not starting from scratch. Your structure exists. You're mature. That works. The question is, the question is not whether you need the governance. The question is how you want to extend the existing governance which already exists to cover the AI. And that's exactly what we are going to see in the next slide. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Now here's the most important point of our session. AI governance is not a new parallel structure. It is an extension of what you already have. Look at this slide on the left hand side. Governance functions that already exist, existing governance. On the right hand side, what you need to add for AI. In the middle is the just an arrow because it is simple. You are extending and not rebuilding. So you are extending risk from the existing governance to the AI governance. That's what we'll call it, AI governance model. So the risk management, you already have a risk register. You already track risks, rate them, report them. So just add AI specific risk categories, things like model risks, bias risk, drift risks. You don't need you don't need a new risk process. You need a new line item in your existing risk register so that it becomes AI enabled risk management system. Your risk team already knows how to do this. Just give them the AI categories. Next is the compliance and audits. Your compliance team already runs assessments and maintains audit trails. So add AI impact assessments before you deploy an AI system. Assess the impacts. Whom does it affect? What decisions does it make? What can go wrong? And maintain model audit trails so you can trace what the model does and why. This is the same muscle your compliance team uses for every other regulations. AI is just a new topic, just a new addition. Then comes the next is the IT governance cap. You already have a process where technology changes gets reviewed before you go live. So create an AI model review board and add AI review to your existing board. Set up the deployment gates. Um, Before any AI model goes to production, it passes through those checkpoints, such as documentation is done, testing is done, approvals are in place. Such same concepts applied to the other technologies are applicable over here. Then comes the data governance. You already govern data quality, lineage, privacy, and access. Now extend that to cover training data. Is the training data good enough? Is it representative? Does it have a bias? You already have people on a team who manages your data. Give them the responsibility to check the data that feeds your AI model. Next is ethics community. If your organization has an ethics committee or a code of conduct, expand the scope. Bring AI ethics, review, and fairness assignments. Ask questions like, is AI treating everyone fairly? Are we comfortable with how the model makes decision? I gave you an example of Amazon. The ethics forum already exists. Just add AI to the agenda. Board oversight. Your board already looks at risk dashboards and sets strategic directions. So give them AI risk dashboards. Show them where AI is being used, what risk it carries, and who owns it. Make sure AI is part of the strategic technology roadmap, not a side project that nobody wants. So the principle is simple: integration, not duplication. Do not create a shadow governance. Extend, expand what works. Add AI to the existing structure. That is how governance actually gets adopted. Okay, next is AI governance framework. Now let's build a framework for those key six pillars of AI governance. And here is the good part. Each one connect directly to something your organization already has. Accountability. Accountability is that someone has to own AI outcome, not the data science team alone, not the IT team alone. That there has to be a clear ownership from the board level at all the way down to a person who builds the model. So it's kind of, it's not just one person who is accountable. It is like a whole body who is accountable for AI governance framework. If an AI system makes a bad decision, the first question everyone asks is who's responsible? If the answer is nobody or we are not sure, that is a governance failure. Every AI system needs a named owner, someone who is accountable for how it performs and what it does. Then, second is the transparency. All decisions needed to be explainable, not just to regulatories, but to the people affected by those decisions. For example, if your model denies a loan someone applied for, a transaction or flags a transaction as fraud, you should be able to explain why. Uh, um, think about it from a customer side. If someone tells you the system said no and nobody can explain the reason to you, that destroys the trust. And that is also a legal requirement now. As I said again, EU Acts requires that high risk AI systems provide a clear explanation for those decisions. So transparency is not an optional, it is a business need and a regulatory need. Next is the fairness. So we all know bias in AI is real. It is well documented, and it can cause a serious harm. Your governance must include ways to detect that bias, fix it, keep monitoring it, and own it over time. That is not a one time check. You cannot test for bias once. You cannot assume it will work fine forever. You need to understand the fact that data changes, user behavior changes, model can become unfair over time. Even if it was fair during the deployment, you cannot take a guarantee that it will not be fair or not will not give a bias outcome tomorrow. In 2023, the study by the National Institute of Standards and Technology found that many commercial face recognition systems had significantly higher error rates for women and people of color. So fairness is not just an ethical goal, it is a measurable governance requirement. Then comes the privacy and security. This goes beyond that standard data privacy controls. AI models can be attacked. There are something called as adversarial attack, where someone feeds the model bad data or input to force it to make a wrong decisions. AI model can also memorize sensitive training data that accidentally leak in it, get leaks in their output. So governance here means to protect the model itself, not just the data. You need to ask yourself, is our model secure? Can someone manipulate it? Can it expose private informations? Then comes compliance. Compliance is a documentation, audit trail, regulatory alignment. ISO provided a management system standard specifically for AI. If you are if you are deploying AI in EU or serving EU customers, compliance is not an optional. Every outside, even outside of EU, regulatory everywhere are moving in the right directions. That's why the regulatory industries are kind of a little bit skeptical about having AI. So treat AI compliance as a baseline, not an after the thought. It is a mandate now. Then comes the performance and monitoring. AI governance does not end at deployment. That is where it actually starts. You need continuous over and over monitoring. You need to continuously check, is the model still accurate or is it drifting? Is it meeting the service levels you promised? Is it keeping the trust of your consumer? A model that works perfectly at launch can degrade over time as and when the real world condition changes. It gets more data. Consumer changes. For example, a fraud detection model trained for 2024 data might miss new fraud patterns which comes in 2026 because the attackers change their methods. So you need to watch your model. And same way you watch your production, the similar way you watch your production system continuously over and over again. So again, these six pillars forms the foundation of your AI governance framework: accountability, transparency, fairness, privacy, compliance, and monitoring. If you get these right, you have a solid foundation to build on. Okay. Now let's go a little bit more deeper into two critical areas: risk management and compliance. These are the two kind of backbones of enterprise governance, and they are the most natural places to bring AI at scale. Add AI. Okay, so we were talking about the risk integration. So add AI risk categories to your existing risk register. You already track operational risk, technology risk, compliance risk. So add model risk, data quality risk, and ethical risks to it. Use the same scoring method your risk team already uses: some likelihood scale, some impact scale, but just new categories. Your risk team does not need to learn new processes, just need to have new items to track. Define risk appetite for AI. Your organization already have a risk appetite statement. It says how much risk they are willing to take. Now extend it for AI, such as how much autonomous decision making it is acceptable, and in which business processes, in which line of businesses, etc. For example, ask yourself, are you comfortable with AI approving small insurance claims automatically? What That's what I think I did give this example of in very starting about the refund. That's where it comes. That's what this explains. You just need to put a check over there and say, okay, you can autonomously approve only refunds which is less than $100. So those are the kind of the risk checks and balances you need to give. Um, these are not technical decisions. These are governance decisions that leadership need to make. Third is the integrate AI into your existing risk reporting. If your risk communities meet quarterly, AI model risk should be on that agenda. If you do annual risk assessments, AI should be included into that. Make a note. Please do not create a separate reporting cycle for AI. That creates confusion and duplication. Make sure to put the AI risk into the same dashboard, same reporting, same meeting. Establish AI establish AI specific key risk indicators, KRIs. We used to call it KPIs. It's now it is KRS, KRIs. You need measurable numbers to track AI risks, things like model accuracy, drift data, bias matrix, and incident counts. For example, if your fraud detection model accuracy drops below 90%, that should be a trigger to review. These KRIs should feed into your existing risk dashboard, same place your leadership already look. The next is the compliance integration. Map AI obligations into your existing compliance controls. The EU AI Act, NIST AI Risk Management Framework, and ISO all defines what you need to know. You do not need a new compliance framework. Map these AI requirements into your existing controls. Your compliance team has done this before with other regulations. Same approach, just new topics. Embed AI impact assessment into your existing processes. Most organizations already do impact assessments before launching a new system or process. AI impact assessments follow the same structure, such as what does the AI do? What is the effect? What can go wrong? What controls are in place, etc. Do not make it a separate process. Add to the existing assessment process, which already runs. Add AI documentation to your compliance standards. Every AI model should have documentation. For example, what data are used to train the model? What decisions does it make? How it was it tested? These are called model cards in the AI world. Think of them as a spec sheet or the specification sheet for your AI model. Add these requirements to your existing documentation standards. Include AI in your internal audit scope. Your internal audit team should be looking at AI, model validations, data quality audits, fairness testing, etc. If AI is making decisions that affect customers or business, audit needs visibility to it. Add to your audit plan. It could be annual, it could be 6 months, quarterly. You can set up the cadence, but the key is that it's the same cycle, same team, but a new scope. So the pattern is the same on both the sides, risk and compliance. You're not building something new. You're adding to your existing AI flow. This is how you make governance the part of your routine, not as a special outside project. Um, yeah, the roles and responsibilities model. So this one is the most important slide in this session, clear roles and accountability. Look at these layered models. Governance work from the top to down, but accountability exists at every single level. Let me walk you through each level. Board of directors. The job of AI governance is to set the AI risk appetite, approve the AI strategy, provide oversight. They do not need to understand how algorithms work. They need to understand what AI risks the organization is taking and whether those risks are acceptable. Think of it in a way that the board does not need to know how the model works. They need to know what happens if the model goes wrong. Fair enough. Um, Next layer is executive leadership, AI steering committee. This is where the strategic directions this is where the strategic directions are set. Resource allocations happens. Cross-functional alignment is coordinated here. If your organization has a chief AI officer, His his role his role is it's not a CTO or CIO that carries the responsibility. It's his responsibility, and that to make sure that the AI governance is in place. The worst thing you can do is to leave it unclear. If nobody owns it at that level, nothing moves, and that is why it is important. AI Governance Office, that's CAIO. This is this is operational center of AI governance. We have many different offices. We have a technology organization. We have a project management organization. We have product organization. This is a AI governance organization. This is the operational center of AI governance. They develop policies, standards, manage the framework, and work with regulatories. Now, here's the reality. In many organizations, this function does not exist. They want to move, they are implementing AI, but this function, which has the accountability to go on AI, does not exist. And make a note, this is the single most important gap to close. Without this layer, you have policies on paper, but nobody is making sure that they are followed. You can start small. Even one or two people dedicated to the AI governance can make a big difference. Next layer is business and technology leaders. These are the people who approve AI use cases, accept risks, and for specific deployment and make go no go decisions. They are the bridge between governance policies and what actually happens on ground. For example, when someone wants to deploy a new AI model, these leaders decide if it is ready, if the risk is acceptable, if the governance requirement has been met. Next is the AL and ML team and the data scientists. This is the foundational and the lowermost layer, but this is very important. They are responsible for model deployment, documentation, testing, bias checks, ongoing monitoring, things like that. They work on ground. A governance accountability starts here actually. Every model should be documented, tested, reviewed before it moves up. If the foundation is weak, everything will break. A model that is poorly documented, untested, creates a risk for the entire organization. So, this is the pyramid of accountability. Each layer has clear responsibilities. And here is the important part, these are not new roles, these are the extension of the roles that already exist in your organization. Your board already provides oversight. Your execution leader already sets strategies. Your technology leaders already approve deployments. You just need to make AI the part of the existing responsibility. All right, Gauri, next slide, please. Operationalizing AI governance. Next slide, please. Okay. Let's talk about AI governance lifestyle and how AI governance actually runs day to day. It runs in 6 phases, and this should look familiar. It actually mirrors what you already do in the IT governance and risk management. Phase first, I identify. First, you need to know what AI you have. Build an AI inventory, every model, every use case, etc. The key here is you cannot go on what you cannot see. Phase two, assess. Once you know what you have, assess each one, which means assess each model. What decisions does this model makes? Who does it affect? What are the potential risks? These tells you how much governance each system needs. For example, a recommendation engine on your website is very different from the model that approves or denies loans. Phase three is gone. Now, based on the assessment, apply the right policies, controls, approvals. High risk AI get more scrutiny. Low risk gets less governance. Keep it proportional. If you apply heavy governance to everything, people will resist to it. And then comes deploy. Here you make sure to keep your deployments checked. For example, before a model goes to the production, documentation should be complete, testing should be done, approval should be in place. You do everything today as well. This is the same existing release management. Without review, no code can go live. AI should not be different from here. Phase then comes monitor. After deployment, continuous monitoring begins, model performance, data drifts, fairness metrics, and incident tracking. These are the kind of the monitoring that you still do and you continue to do. All these should be continuously monitored. So the key here is watch your AI model in the same way you have been watching your production. Next is review. This phase should include product audits, retaining decisions, retirement decisions. Ask your question if this model is still performing, does it still meet the requirement? Is training data still relevant? If no, retire it. Um, this is a continuous loop. What you learn from monitoring, feedback into your identification and assessment. The more you run this loop, the smarter your governance model becomes. Next slide, please. Okay. Uh, Pattern for regulated industries. Let me share four governance patterns. These are that are actually working in regulated industries today. These are not theoretical. These are the patterns that industries and organizations are using right now. The three line of defense for AI. If you work in banking or insurance, you probably know this model already. First line is the governance development team. They own the model, they build it, they test it, they document it, and then they deploy it. They are responsible for this quality. The second line is the AI governance office. They provide independent oversight. They set the standards and challenge the first line. They ask the hard questions such as, is the model fair? Is it documented properly? Has it been tested enough? The third line is the internal audit. They ensure that the whole governance framework is actually working, not just on paper, but in practice. And that work becomes most financial institutions already run these three lines of defense for other risk areas, but just add AI to the same mix. It is the most common pattern to see in the banking and insurance today. AI model risk management. Just for your knowledge, in the United States, the OCC and the Federal Reserve put out guidance on model risk management over a decade ago. It is called SR 11.7. In simple terms, it says every model should have a risk rating, validation requirements based on that rating and ongoing monitoring. Now, organizations are applying the same principles to the AI models. So if you have higher risk AI model, it gets deeper validations, more frequent monitoring, but low risk models get less reviews. The monitoring is tied to how important the model is to the business. The more critical the model is, the more monitoring it needs. This is a structured discipline. This is structured. This is a well oiled engine, and your risk teams understand the concept very well. Then is the tiered governance by risk level. This one is simple but very effective. Not all AI needs the same governance. So here, classify your model into three different tiers: high risk, moderate risk, low risk. For example, a recommendation engine on your website is a low risk. The AI model that automatically approves or denies insurance claims is a high risk model. Apply governance proportionally into these tiers: heavy overweight or high, for high risk, and low touch for low risk. This aligns directly to your regulatory EU AI Act. They also classify AI by risk levels and set requirements accordingly. The key is having a clear classification system so everyone knows what tier this AI falls into. Then comes the AI, the fourth is the AI governance embedded in Agile. This one is critical for organizations that want governance without slowing down the delivery. The old way is to put that governance gate at end. You build the model and then you wait for weeks for approval. That's frustrating. The better way is to embed the governance checkpoints into the development process itself. That is this is how it happens. Ethics reviews take place during the sprint planning. Bias testing happens during development. Compliance sign off happens during the release planning. Governance happens alongside development, not after it. This way, by the time the model is ready to deploy, governance is already done, not waiting or not a bottleneck. So these are the four proven patterns: three lines of defense, model risk management, tiered governance, and governance in agile. You do not have to pick just one. Many organizations combine them. The point is, this is not a new idea. This is an extension of what regulatory industries have been doing for years. Now apply the same to the AI. Next slide, please. Okay, the common pitfalls to avoid. Now, let me share some four common pitfalls I see organizations fall into AI governance. If you can avoid these, you already are ahead of most of them. The first one is building a parallel governance structure. This is the number one mistake. Organization gets excited, create a brand new AI community, new reporting lines, new processes, completely separate from what they are already doing. Within a year, nobody knows who owns what. Duplication everywhere. No clear accountabilities. Eventually, people just ignore the new structure. The fix is simple: integrate it into what you already have. Do not create a new body. Second is governance without teeth. Uh, say you can have the best policies in the world, aesthetically documented policies, great PowerPoint slides. But if there is no enforcement, no consequences for skipping the governance, nobody is held accountable, it means nothing. Governance is governance is only strong if it is enforced. If someone bypass the strong, if someone is skipping the process, nothing happens. That everyone realizes the governance is optional. The third one is one size fit all approach. This is another pitfall. Applying the same heavy governance to every AI system, whether it is a high risk, low risk, it doesn't work. Say the team, say a team is building a simple chatbot. Should it go through the same review process as building the automated loan decision system? Definitely not. Also, use tiered governance. That's where the tiered governance comes. Match the level of oversight to the level of the risk. Fourth pitfall is governance as a gate, not as a partner. Let's understand this. If governance only shows, if governance only show us to say no, teams will find a way to work around it. Nobody wants to be a person who slows everything down. So this is very important. The best governance team work alongside AI team that from the very start. It's like a shift left formula. They help build AI responsibility, not just to review it at the end. Why? When governance works as a partner, not as a gate, it is more effective. Ignoring model drifts after deployment. Many organizations put a lot of effort into governance before deployment, reviewing testing, documentations, approvals. But once the model goes live, they assume it is working fine and they move on. They forget they forget about the model drift, because the AI model will drift because data changes, consumer behavior changes. So retraining everything is important. A model that was accurate at the release becomes unpredictable over the time. So these five pillars, parallel structure, no enforcement, one size fit all governance, governance not a partner to the IT, and ignoring drifts. Avoid these. Your governance program will be much more stronger if you take care of these. Next slide, please. Okay, getting started, a practical roadmap. This is the slide I want you to remember if you take one thing back to your organization. Let it be, let this be your roadmap. How to implement AI governance. These are the four phases with practical steps that you can start tomorrow. Phase one. Now, from month one to month two, three things do right away. First, build your AI inventory. Find out the AI systems exist in your organization which are in production. What models are running? Who owns them? What decisions do they make? What data do they use? This does not need to be perfect. Start with a simple list, just improvise it later on. Second, assign an executive sponsor. AI governance needs a senior champion, someone who is a C-suite or a VP level who owns this and can allocate resources. Without a sponsor, a governance stays an idea and it never becomes practical. Third, assess your current governance gaps. Use the framework we discussed today. Look at what you already have. Look at what AI needs. Identify the gaps. Third, assess your current governance gaps. Use the framework we discussed today. Look at what you already have. Look at what AI needs. Identify the gaps. Then comes the phase two from next 3 to 4 months. Now you start building. Define your AI risk tiers. Classify your AI systems into high, medium, low risk. This decision, this decision how much governance each system this decides how much governance each system needs. Extend your risk registers. You already have one. You already have RAID logs. Add AI specific risk categories to it. Model risk, data risk, bias risk, etc. Draft your AI governance policies. This is the foundation document. It defines the principles, the roles, the requirements. It does not need to be 100 pages, just simple start building and build it over time, evolve it over time. Then comes the next month 5 to 6. Now start operationalize it, start operating. Establish AI review boards. This does not have to be a new board. Extend your existing technology review board to cover AI. Same governance forums. They should review and approve high level AI deployments. Embed governance into your development process. Do not wait until deployment to check governance. Build checkpoints. Bill Gates, not Bill Gates, build Gates into the deployment lifecycle. For example, ethics, review during planning, bias, testing during deployment, compliance check during release, etc. And then launch your monitoring framework. Define what you should monitor, how you should monitor it, and what triggers a model review, etc. Then your last phase is your month 7 to 12. Now you scale and mature. Run the full governance lifecycle for 6 phases, what we discussed earlier. Identify, assess, govern, deploy, monitor, review. All run in production. Automate compliance checks where possible. Manual governance does not scale. If you're checking things by hand, you will fall behind the AI behind the AI cycle. So keep improvising your governance. It's not a one-time project. It is an operating model. It gets better every time you run the cycle. So 4 phases: now, next, soon, and scale. You do not need everything day one. Start with your inventory, get a sponsor, and find the gaps. I think we do have next slide, please. Okay, key takeaways. I think okay. Yeah. So we are almost at the end. So let's talk about the 5 key takeaways. Integrate. First, integrate, do not duplicate. This is a central message of today's message. This is the kind of the core message what I've been saying all along. Do not reinvent. Just kind of improvise what you already have and embed AI into it. The entire central system of today's message session, is this. You already have governance structure that works. Extend them with AI. Do not build a separate system that competes with your existing system. It's going to confuse everyone. Accountability must be clear. If nobody owns AI governance, nothing is going to happen. From board all the way down to the person building the model, everyone needs to know what their roles are, what they're accountable for. Risk-based and proportional. Not every AI system needs the same level of oversight. It should be tier-based: high risk, low risk, high, light, and low, high, medium, and low. This keeps governance practical and prevent it from becoming a bottleneck and monotonous. Governance is continuous. It does not stop at deployment. This is where it actually starts. Model changes, data changes, regulatory regulations changes over time, and the person who are using AI, they are different. They are evolving. That's what is continuous. You need ongoing monitoring, periodic reviews, and the processes to keep monitoring. Fifth, start now. Start small, and then scale. You don't need a perfect framework on the day one. Build your AI inventory this month, get a sponsor, find the gaps, and then keep on improvising. Start the journey with what you can improve as of now. So the 5 takeaway is, again, integrate, own it, make it proof, make it proportional, keep going, and start today. Okay. Yes, you can proactively set up a governance at your level, but I would say, it makes more sense when it is everyone at every single level is accountable for AI governance. Because tomorrow, if there's a failure, in perfect world, there will be a failure. There will be a failures, and it will be public, and it will be on a very high scale. So you are not the only person who is accountable for that failure. If every layer in your organization has an AI accountability, everyone has to take that failure. It's not just you or your organization or at your level. That would be my suggestion. But yeah, definitely you can start at your level. But I think every layer at every structure should be accountable for AI governance. I think the sponsor should be from the C-suite. The sponsor who is. Do you guys have like the CTO? Is there any person, anyone equivalent to that who is kind of sponsoring this AI model, sponsoring your AI products? If not, your CTO should be your sponsor, I would say. You are the sponsor yourself, Thomas. If you do not have a CTO, and if you just want to build the AI structure privately, I'm not sure what you mean by privately, but definitely then you are the sponsor yourself, because you are taking the initiative to have a governance in place. Next one is, if model bias and behavior changes with the new data. Yes, that's what we're saying, that it has to be continuously evolve, because the data will change, so the behavior will change with the new data. It's like, you need to run that model continuously and not just stop at once it is in production. You need to have monitoring it and checking it even after it's been deployed into the production. Recommendation initiatives. I think we have already covered these in our slides. Recommendation initiatives is like, are you starting your AI structure from very scratch, Or is it like, you already have an established AI structure, and you want to just build a governance for your AI structure? Recommended initiatives to put. I think this is, I can take it offline if you want to reach me through LinkedIn, but I just want to still stick to this particular session, which is about governance. But we can definitely talk about separately on the initiatives to put into place to build AI structure. Raj asked, when an organization ready to adapt AI solutioning, where do we, okay, where do they start prioritized? Okay. When an organization ready to start to adapt AI solutioning, where do they start prioritized? They need to start and prioritize looking at the inventory. As I said, like, you look at the inventory, start, like yesterday, I'll give you a very practical example. Yesterday, I was at a session with the product owners, and one of the product owner asked me a question that she has already deployed a chatbot, but the chatbot gives only answers and does not take an action. So I think that is one of the use case that she shared with us, that how can she improvise that the chatbot can actually also take an action. So that's the limitation of the chatbot. That's the kind of the use case, is a perfect use case. So chatbot has this limitations. It's just a communicator. It's not going to take an action. So what you can do is to improvise it. Just put a link so that the user who is chatting with the chat in the chatbot can click that link and take an action. So that is kind of those kind of the use cases and the features you need to figure out within your organization to adapt AI solutioning. Thank you so much for taking out time to be here and to participate and to hear me.